Okay, welcome back. Um, this video is sort of the introductory part. I'm going to do separate videos for different sections because you're going to work in teams and some people will watch some videos, some will watch the others. I suggest you all watch them at some point to be aware of what was in there, and as you work in your teams, make sure that the information is being passed on. There's another video that I put together a few that was going to be part of this presentation, but as the school's already done quite a lot of explaining safety under COVID, I've left it out of these presentations and this exercise, but it basically just goes through make sure you wash your hands before and after using a computer, techniques of washing hands, be careful about what parts of your face, mouth, nose, eyes, ears is one people forget. Be careful about your ears as well, because there are ways of getting for viruses to get in through your ears. But the main thing, make sure you wash your hands with soap and water before and after using computers, especially if the computer is shared. So we're going to have a look at the risks of computers as health. Now, each video is really just a starting point for the research. You should be looking a bit further into each area. I gave you a starter exercise, and the starter exercise is basically to review what's happening about e-safety from year 7. This screen should have been up when you came into the lesson for you to think and consider what's going on from last year. I'm just going to run through what I've got at the moment for the year 7s. So their quick thing is be careful on social media because you never know exactly who's there. The thing you want to avoid is undesirable contacts. So really you should only be in friends and communicating with people you know in real life. That being said, yes, it's a social environment. So we would like to be able to turn around and say that we know everybody we know online, but it's not possible. And you can become friends with people online. And the main thing about them is really, really don't meet up unless you know that person personally. You've met them before. If you're not and you're going to meet, as we go into the grooming stuff, never meet up with anybody unless you're in a public place. Never go offline and talk to somebody in an unmoderated space. You should have the question, if someone's asking me to go and chat to them in a system that you don't know, why? What is it that they might not want the normal communication route you use to be used? What are they trying to hide? Be careful what information you share. The grooming section is not just about adults trying to befriend children, the paedophilia problem. It also happens for people trying to sell you things, particularly older people are suffer from grooming where they get pestered and pestered and pestered, each time being given a smaller and small little steps to encourage them to buy things. That grooming and posting and bullying. Remember that things online are always there. Never post anything online unless your grandma would approve of it. So be nice to each other. That's to the bullies out there. If you are being bullied, or you think that you're being groomed, or somebody is starting to encourage you to do other things you may not be comfortable with. So we're looking at the grooming, bullying, coercion cycles. In each of these cycles, first of all, don't do anything online that you wouldn't want your grandma to see. That's my simple rule. Be nice to each other. If people are starting making inappropriate comments, block them. So if someone's sending you text messages, block the number. If it's online, you can block most of the time in the group. You may have to remove yourself from a group to do that. If it's particularly worrying, and it doesn't matter if it's first time or it just keeps happening, tell an adult. Yes, you might talk to your friends first, but if you're a good friend, encourage them to talk to an adult. Good selections, your parents, they'll always try and back you up. You might get worried about what they'll say, but if someone is bullying you or trying to coerce you into things that you don't want to do, they're going to be madder at them. Talk to your tutor, and there's this new school counsellor you might be aware of called Alexis Reamer. She's been around for a while because I understand she's got a few children in the school. Finally, if it's getting really bad and your adults are doing it, notify the service provider. If you get notifying the service provider, you're probably going to wind up notifying the police as well. You don't want to be getting too far down these spirals, because if you get too far down here, the likelihood is whatever you're being coerced into doing or what somebody is doing, it's going to be on the internet and it's going to be there for a long, long time. So be careful about those. There's a section, I missed one bit back here. Content. We didn't stress this before, but do try to pay attention to the content restrictions. If you're being asked, are you 18? There's normally a good reason. It might be, sexual content. You might think it's a good laugh to go and look at naughty pictures online, guys. But quite a lot of the time, what you see online is not real life. It's staged in some way, and it gives you inappropriate views of the world and misunderstandings. Even on first aid sites, I do first aid courses all the time, and you think, maybe I should know about this. The last provider I went to, they said, first of all, you should be first aid trained to be using this website, and they wanted people over 18. And I was a little bit surprised, but when I went into it, the resources that they were sharing were showing some very gruesome photos. And if you're not prepared for it, you don't know what context to put it in, it can be very upsetting. Next part, last bit for this section, is passwords. I did use this idea of using 3 or 4 words. It is really, really strong. I've done a couple of examples before. I've used 3 basic words on mine with some between the words. I'm not trying to change those words anymore, but I do change the first letter to capital. Doesn't make it massively different, but with those capitals there, I've doubled the number of characters to check. I also put a couple of a number and a symbol in there to separate the words. I don't change the words themselves particularly, but 3 or 4 unrelated words allow me to have secure passwords. And the reason is this. Not too long ago, people were encouraged to take their password, and to try and remember it, they wanted things that were maybe 8, 9 characters long. Then they were trying to change that one word by putting capital letters in places. Make substitutions. So instead of O, they've put in a 0. Instead of an A, they put in 2 characters that look similar. Add some symbols on the other end. And that's hard for you to remember. You've now made, I can remember the basic word, but what changes did I make? There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 changes they've made to a standard word. And knowing which ones are awkward. But remembering 3 or 4 words and a couple of characters in there is a lot easier. So what this cartoon is talking about is, for 20 years we've been trying to make it harder for us to remember our passwords. But computers don't care about having to remember it, they'll just count through. So it's been easier and easier for the computers to start breaking these down, because you take a common word and then you play with the letters in known ways. You can get very quick, what used to be considered hard to crack passwords, now being dropped out in a matter of minutes or seconds. Frequently the 3 or 4 word ones, we're looking at years to be found. This bit of bits of entropy is talking about how long it will take to process all those letters. Generally, they don't do the hard crack. They don't go for the sets of letters and just try A, B, C, D. They use things called password dictionaries, and some of those password dictionaries contain previously cracked passwords. So it is worth using them. But if you can't remember passwords, consider getting a password manager. They are safer than the browser password sharing tool because you can't easily see if it's encrypted or not when you copy the files around. So that's the basic stuff for the table at the start of the worksheet. Do make sure you keep some ideas together. You're going to be given a few minutes now just to make a copy of the worksheet and update it. And I'll see hopefully all of you in a few minutes.